some people watching this will probably know some of your past, but for those who don't, maybe we can talk a little bit about your history and your own direct experience with some of the atrocities that have happened to the Jewish people. I know your grandparents died at Auschwitz, I believe, killed at Auschwitz. You grew up seeking identity as a young man. So could you talk a little bit about your own personal history with war and with atrocities and how that's impacted your life today?
Yeah, sure. What I'm thinking about is that sometimes people have this point of view that you choose the moment of your birth, and your parents. And I think, what kind of an idiot would choose to be born a Jewish infant in Hungary in January 1944? Towards the end of the Second World War, Hungary was an ally of Germany. As such, it was not occupied by the Germans. So although there was a lot of anti-Semitism, the genocide had not yet struck Hungary. But 2 months after I was born, in January 44, in March, Hungary tried to wiggle its way out of the German alliance, seeing which way the cards were stacked by that point. Germany occupied Hungary, and then the genocide of the Hungarian Jewry began, which, according to Eichmann, its chief organizers, it went like a dream. They managed to kill more people in the shortest space of time they had done anywhere else in Eastern Europe. And between March and June of 1944, they murdered 500,000 people, including my grandparents. And it would have included my mother and I had we not stayed in Budapest. Had my mother moved to her parents in southern Slovakia, we would have been in that number. And this is a story I've told before, but people think people don't remember their infancy. They don't recall it, but they remember it.
The cells remember it.
The body remembers, the brain, the nervous system remembers. The day after the Germans marched into Budapest, there was this phone call by my mother to the pediatrician to say, "Would you please come and see my son, because he's crying all the time." And my mother said, and then the pediatrician said, "Yes, of course I'll come, but I should tell you, all my Jewish babies are crying." And that sorrow that I ingested from my mother has been in me all my life. And I'm thinking of all the crying babies now in Israel, and especially right now in Gaza with the bombing. I used to feel for it all. So I survived the year with my mother, barely. I was very ill at 11 months of age. My grandparents had been killed in Auschwitz in June. The same day they were deported. Although my mother didn't know that, they were deported that day. Her breast milk dried up. So empathetically, she knew. My aunt was taken to Auschwitz. She was a medical doctor. She came back at the end of the war weighing 80 pounds, wearing a discarded German army uniform. That's the only thing she could find. My father was in forced labor. For the most part of that year, my mother did not know if he was dead or alive.
So the Nazis had him, and they had him forced labor.
It was the Hungarian army that had conscripted him to this Jewish forced labor battalion. And when I was 11 months of age, to save my life, my mother gave me to a Christian woman in the streets of Budapest, and I didn't see her for 5 or 6 weeks. But let me tell you a story that I didn't know until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. There was a cousin of mine whose family looked after me during those weeks where I was separated from my mother, because they were living under marginally better circumstances. And I was very ill. I had dysentery, I had bronchitis. I was 11 months of age. My uncle took it upon himself to stray outside the area where Jews are allowed to live to find a Christian doctor to come and see me. Really, he took his life into his hands. And he knocked on the door where it said pediatrician. This young woman comes out and says, "I'm the pediatrician." Promised to come to see me the next day. So this Christian doctor comes to see me at this hidden Jewish refuge. everybody in the apartment, there was 24 people living in 3 rooms, and everybody in the apartment was scared as to what this Christian woman would do. Well, all she did is she examined me. She decided I didn't have tuberculosis, which is what they were afraid of, gave me medicine. My cousin, who was 13 years old then, wrote in her diary, which I read for the first time 2 years ago.
Wow.
As she was leaving, I was crying on the table, and the doctor pats my head. And she said, "Don't worry, my little son, you'll pay them back later."
Wow.
Meaning, not that you'll take revenge, but that the goodness that you're receiving, you'll pay them back. And you know, whether I'm right or not wrong on this issue, or any other issue, this urge to give back to the world the goodness that I received.
It's beautiful.
You know, and of course, as an infant, I could only interpret my mother's giving it to strangers and abandonment. It was many years later that I understood how the universe had conspired to save my life. And what I experienced was abandonment, was a tremendous act of love.
Wow.
So when I'm in a relatively grounded space, which is far from always, these days I feel tremendous gratitude. And on this issue, and I'm so grateful for this conversation, I just want to help people make sense out of it. So that going forward, we don't keep repeating and perpetrating on each other what I began to experience almost from the moment I was born.